Text AdvoCamp to 22333.
Or respond to, so this is like, if you were here last year, this is through the poll everywhere. So it's a live polling system. So you can text or you can go to that URL, the question will come up.
Data charges do apply.
And then we'll start to see, it's really fun. We'll start to see stuff up here as you enter them in.
For the camera again.
There may be times that we ask you to use electronics like now.
Yeah, so text box. So here too.
There'll be more of these.
Developer. Yes.
You guys are strong.
Your table mate might be struggling.
Yeah, because I think we have another one.
We can help out.
Yeah.
These will be floating in and out throughout the 3 days using, and this is the type of survey we do at the end, is to pull everywhere.
Right.
So as this is coming up on the screen, guys, this is just because we really want to highlight, just because you have a role or you have a title in the organization, right? We actually, this is Nelnet, right? We're all in this together. Doesn't matter title, doesn't matter role, doesn't matter location. So this is Nelnet. This is who we are. So as we go through the next 3 days, just go in with that open mind of, we have different titles, we have different roles, but ultimately, we have a common goal.
Let's see. You can pick on.
Shrub, you made it. You made it work.
Well, I was going to play with
So, wasn't that fun? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all of you are welcome is the point.
Yes.
Yeah, well, where is the developer? All right. Cool. Thank you for doing that. Again, as Aaron said, we'll see these throughout the session. So, the first section of the day is called Pitfalls of the Unspoken. Anybody know this game here? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, you remember when that came out? Yeah.
About 1979.
I think it was 81. Yeah, it was Atari, yeah. So that was, it's kind of like chicken or the egg. Which came first? Well, the title came first, and I'm like, oh, yeah, now I got all nostalgic and start thinking about Pitfall, which is one of my favorite games. So it has nothing to do with the show other than it was neat for me. So what do you expect? This talk is all about expectations and how we voice them or not voice them, right? So Pitfalls and Unspoken, you can kind of get the idea there. So to start us off, to think about expectations, if you've got hopefully a sheet of paper or two, maybe something to jot down on would be ideal. And you can keep this private. So here's your first task.
Everyone got a little notebook in their swag
Oh,
bag.
everyone got a little notebook in your swag bag. Yay, Swaginator!
There's also a pen in your bag too, so if you don't have a pen.
All right. So here's your task. Here's task number 1. Right now, expectations that you may have of people on your team. Team can mean anything. If it's a work group or work team, some expectations that you have of your teammates. Maybe it's with your family group, expectations that you have of members of your family. Maybe it's a church group, a sports team, whatever it might be, some sort of team that you work together closely or interact a lot with. So an expectation or two of that. So I'm going to go the other direction now. This way, apparently. Thank you. 1 or 2 of you about that. What expectations might they have of you? What expectations might they have of you? And then lastly, what expectations do you have of yourself? So, expectations you have of them of you of you. Sounds weird. You get the gist. Okay. And the last thing I want you to write, we've all been in a situation where expectations have not been met. Is anyone in the room that all of their expectations have been met 100% of the time? Right? I think we've all suffered or experienced unmet expectation at some level. If you think of something that was most recent when you experienced maybe an unmet expectation, think about, and this might be harder for you to connect with, but think about the emotions that came up for you. Think about maybe what you felt physically yourself, right? When somebody didn't live up to your expectation, right? So what went on for you emotionally, what went on for you physically. I think you can kind of dig deep about something recent. Okay? And then the last question I'll ask, and this is kind of an interesting one for me at least, is it possible to have no expectations? And if so, are there certain scenarios where that's even reasonable? Anyone?
Well, Rolling Stones had a song, No Expectations.
Fair enough. So we're on music page, which is cool. So this is a little bit about me. Most of you know me, but I'm the guy on the left. That's my fiance, Connie. I like to bike a lot. That is not my view from my home, but I do get to see that every day I drive into work because I drive west. I'm certified. I'm an ICI certified expert coach. And there's like a little Twitter handle. I can't even say it. That's how cool I am. So, all right. So one of the definitions of expectations for me, I really, really like, is expectations are one-sided fantasies that often result in confusion, misunderstanding, and disconnection. Does that resonate with you guys? And resentment, yeah. There's other things that come up, isn't there? But I like the fantasies because we have these expectations of folks. Sometimes they're not even reasonable expectations, are they? Sometimes we don't even articulate what those expectations are. Well, you should just know, right? Has anyone of us said that? I can admit that I have. Well, you should just know. How is it even possible? And then my favorite source of research is Dilbert. How are you doing on your unspoken objectives? My what? Referring to the goals I have in mind that I've never mentioned. How are those going? Nailing it. Right? Totally nailing it. Dilbert's great. So let's talk about the science of expectations and what goes on first. You guys know what dopamine is, sometimes known as the happy drug. It's the key neurotransmitter in the brain that helps us with motivation, focus, and productivity, right? And so when expectations are being met, what occurs for us, what occurs in the brain is that we get a charge of dopamine. And so we feel maybe a sense of satisfaction. Even though the stones say you can get none. Get no satisfaction, right? But you get a sense of satisfaction, you feel good about things, right? We've all experienced that at least at some level, hopefully. Otherwise, this isn't the session for you, and I have some business cards of people that I go see on a regular basis. But what happens when expectations are not being met is just the opposite. There's a release or a deficiency of dopamine. And what they are finding, psychologists are finding, is that people experience very similar symptoms that you would as if you were depressed. So when unmet expectations are unmet, there's maybe a low-level depression kind of setting in. So symptoms such as lack of motivation, fatigue, apathy, procrastination. I hope procrastination isn't one, because I'm world class at that. This just came together this morning. So, which is why I asked the question, what went on for you physically or emotionally when expectations aren't being met? Because that is what's going on scientifically, is that you have a deficiency in dopamine. You could be experiencing some of that. And because we talked a little bit about science, math major myself, I want to talk about a little math. Expectation minus observation is equal to frustration. What that means is that the difference between what we observe and what we expect results generally in frustration, right? And the bigger that gap in what I expect and what I observe, in other words, if I had this expectation that you're here and you're here, the larger that gap, probably the greater the frustration. You guys agree with that? Now you guys have experienced that probably. You have kids, teenagers, specifically. I've got a 14-year-old, he's a lot of fun. Well, he is, sometimes. So think about when you get frustrated, what's going on for you in that frustration. It could be that it might be an unmet expectation. Imagine what this family's feeling when they went to see Disney on Ice. Probably not what they were expecting, right? The kids were probably feeling a very visceral reaction to seeing Disney on Ice. Mom's probably freaking out, going, how do I attend to them, but this is no cool because I bought tickets, right? So again, just kind of illustrating maybe what's going on emotionally for these people as they show up for Disney on Ice. The reality is what I believe is that all of us have a playbook, right? And that playbook for each of us is a little bit different. But it contains things of how we view the world, right? Get into the, what you should just know, right? That's in my playbook, right? You should just understand that. How could you not even get there? This is just the basic human behavior, or whatever it might be, right? But they're all a little bit different. There might be some overlap. Hopefully, being part of the human race, there is some good overlap. And having some general expectations around how people interact with one another, what's acceptable, what's not. Hopefully those things are in alignment, especially if we're on a team together, right? But what if this playbook, and again, connecting right back to the very beginning, I asked you to write these things down. What have you published the playbook? Now, maybe you don't publish that. It's a very brief snippet of how you view the world or how you think the world views you. But what if in your teams, imagine your team, if you were to articulate each of those expectations of one another? How do you think that would go? We don't do touchy-feely stuff at work, is that? How do you think that would go? Maybe. When do you typically voice your articulate your expectations? After they weren't met, right? Seems kind of silly when you say it out loud, I hope. But generally speaking, the only time we allow people to kind of an insight into those expectations are when they didn't meet them. It's kind of like, if you have an opportunity to get the answer key to a test, right? You're like, heck yeah, give me that answer key. I want to do that because I don't have to study then, other than all of this, right? So if you had the answer key, it might go a little bit smooth. But we're still human, so things kind of evolve. So constantly republish this playbook. Expectations can be a dangerous game that we play. And we're talking about the unspoken expectation when we don't voice it, right? So hence the publish your expectations. Some of the expectations are very subtle that we might have. One example might be, let's say we have every Wednesday we have a meeting at 9 a.m. And my expectation, or we articulate, and we all agree as a team, is that yes, we will arrive on time, 9 a.m. What happens in our world when everyone is on time? Does the meeting start on time?
Yeah.
Yes?
Maybe.
Maybe. If we're distributed, usually people are racing in from the last meeting, they get in and they go, oh crap, I can't get into WebEx, right? And then they spend the next 5 to 7 minutes getting into, and somebody inevitably says, the network. I can't find the link to WebEx. So you don't start the meeting until 5 after, and then somebody's ticked off. Probably the facility, probably me. But I voiced my expectation incorrectly. What I meant to say was, that we should start on time. And so if you need to get in a little bit early to get WebEx, that's probably a good idea. So again, a little subtle, but that's maybe an unspoken expectation. The other kind, which I think is equally as dangerous, maybe more, is the veiled expectation. Anybody experience something where it usually comes in the form of a question? Hey, what would you guys like for dinner? And then everybody says, I want this, I want that, I want... And then they kind of come together and they say, let's get Subway for dinner. Okay, that's great, but I just ordered pizza, right? It's a veiled expectation. I was hoping everyone would say pizza. You got the answer wrong. I ordered pizza anyway. So anybody experience something similar to that? I'm trying to use something very agnostic. Maybe it's in a one-on-one with one of your teammates, maybe your boss. I don't know. And they ask you a question, and then you go, here's a great answer to that. Here's how I'm going to approach this work. And they go, no, I think a better way is this. You're like, well, yeah, why'd you waste my time? If that's what you want to do, let's just do that. That's what I call a veiled expectation, okay? So if you have an intended answer in mind, give the answer first, right? And then debate whether that's a great one or not. This is kind of a setup type of thing, which I don't really like. Anybody have any other examples of that one?
I think sometimes when that happens, it makes you feel like you're being, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's not you feeling that.
Yeah, time is precious, right? We're all extremely busy. So if I had an idea in mind, I might just come out and say, hey, Karen, what do you think about it? It's probably a good one. And then you go, well, that's kind of dumb. That's what most people say to me. And then you come up with a better idea. That's a better way to approach it versus give me your idea. Well, no, let's just do this. And you're like, whatever. Thanks. I'll never get those 30 minutes back. Right? Here's the deal. You're in control of you. You don't get to control the other person. You have the opportunity to control your emotions, introspect for yourself, right? That's all you can do. If someone's not meeting my expectations, whose problem is that? Mine, right? I have to ask myself questions. Was the expectation reasonable? Maybe, maybe not. Was the expectation attainable? Possibly not. Did I even articulate it? Right? That's probably the first question we should ask yourself. Do they even know that I had this expectation? Why am I so upset? Yet they didn't know that that expectation was there, right? And apparently this is the bottom line. Once you learn how to do that, everything's groovy. Right?
Are you gonna demonstrate that later?
Yeah. So when you get frustration, immediately get curious. Asking yourself some of those questions, right? Is it reasonable? Is it attainable? Did I even articulate it? Was it even clear? What's not working for me? Why am I, or how am I approaching this situation? How might I approach it differently for a different outcome? Identify why exactly you're feeling frustrated. Typically, it's because of, not always, but typically, it's because of unmet expectations, right? So go through that exercise yourself before you just lash right out, okay? So when your expectations aren't being met, evaluate everything, starting with yourself. Brainstorm with the other person. Talk about that expectation, right? Getting to the, is it attainable? Is it reasonable? Right? That might be a good negotiation to have. I have an expectation of you to be an expert at whatever. You're like, I've never done any of that. I'm not sure how you got there for me because you cannot expect that of me. I'm a work in progress, right? That might be the discussion. And then once you get to some negotiating out of the way, you clearly articulate what it is you need of each other, what you expect of each other. Write it down. Oftentimes we do it in the form of working agreements. It doesn't need to be that, but it can be that. Maybe it's in your little cool notebook that you got. Yeah. What else can you do when expectations aren't being met? What are some other ways to navigate that? Talk. Whoa! Imagine if we talked and we spoke honestly, respectfully, but honestly with one another, right? Yeah. So, the little sheets of paper, these questions are related to that. What will you do with that information? You have expectations of your teammates. Go through this series of questions. Do they even know about those expectations you have of them, right? You also wrote down what expectations do they have of you. Those are assumptions. You're assuming they have these expectations of you. Maybe your experience with your teammates sets that belief for you, right? Maybe talk. I love it. Maybe you should be here. But have a discussion about that. Hey, I feel like you have an expectation of me of this. This isn't possible because, or but can we tweak this a little bit because this seems off for me, right? What was the other question I asked you guys? What expectations do you have of yourself? What will you do with that? Talk to myself. That's not a stretch for you, Paul. The problem is, it's an ongoing debate at that point. So my challenge to you is do something with that information. Start with talking. Start with communicating those expectations to one another. It's always good to have that answer key. It's also good to be able to negotiate some of that with your teammates. Okay? And then what expectations do you have for Agile Camp 2018? So that's a real question. What expectations do you have? So real questions.
Learn something new.
Learn something new. What else?
Meet new people.
Meet new people.
Learn something I can use both at work and out.
Love it. Use here at work and possibly at home. Yeah.
No.
She's waving at me, I think. What else? Re-energize. Cool. Have fun. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have some of that in store for you. As you think of some of those things, what expectations you have of Agile Camp 2018, please put it on the wall. We're going to stress probably every session how important feedback is to us. And so please do that. Share those expectations you have with us. Maybe it's me as a speaker that's really, really helpful. And other speakers, as well as the content that you've got on the session. That's all I've got for Pitfalls and the Unspoken. Unfortunately, we're not playing Atari. That would be cool, I know, but it's not here today. Before we step away, as we promised, we have a survey. How do we get to it?
Go to.
Oh, go to pollev.com/agilecamp. Can you use the text message?
Not for this one because there's 4 questions, so you can't do the text. And so, again, if you feel so inclined, it's super helpful. None of the questions are mandatory. You can skip through if you want. Your stuff isn't going to be displayed up here. It's, well, the questions aren't. The questions aren't. And so that we can get, again, so Chris will be doing this again in Lincoln and in Madison, and so just any help at all.
I take you got. Okay.
And then once you guys are done, or if you chose to not do it, that's okay. We are in a break now up until 10 when we have Brendan doing, what are you doing, Brendan?
Top 10 barriers to achieving an agile culture.
Woo! Okay, so if you're here at 10, we'll see you at 10.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Go back there.
Pull that down.
Because all I did was reply to Christian and said, because I figured out. She was the one that sends out the safety gate, book the attendance. And then we got over to signing for the individual session. Signed up.
It's nice meeting you.
I didn't bring my laptop with me today.
It's not working. 30 days. Yeah. That's
She said, I'll be down here.
yeah, so when I went to Ghana, I came back and I wasn't working. So I know how it goes. That's the life of staying on an island.
I'm just trying to mess with it right now.
Why do you have a trainer?
I do.
Why did you use the trainer? And like, what my
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant somebody yourself.
No, a trainer.
Actually, I'm okay. I can get the 12-meter.
Yeah, but the way you develop the memory muscle is that you fly 2 meters
Okay.
with your eyes laying down.
That's what he said.
Facing the same.
You gotta be able to
And
do
behind the back.
Right.
Left-handed, right-handed. So when you fly 2 meters, it's not going to pull you. It's a trainer. It's not going to kill you. right? They shred the trailer. So much that they shred every chance you get. Because the trailer bed is much quicker.
That's the first thing that was like, you had to anticipate, because if it starts going in the window, it's going to get out.
When you're flying on your face, you're flying, you're keeping the trailer bed flying, that will translate into huge trees for a full-size kite.
Well, I used to fly stunt kites.
Perfect. Excellent. So that's the
But the difference was the handles versus the bar.
You gotta get a chain kite with a bar.
It's so cool that you did that. It's like, it's just by chance, a friend of mine likes doing it. And that was part of it. Foil does the beats for like a bucket.
So you remember in lifeboat, they start to tow in hydrofoils. You rise up on the water. These kites are
My friend is doing it. He's trying to learn. Learning curve. Big That's what they call it. It's stuff. It's like goes that far under the water and you're above it.
But he says, so much.